We'd like to welcome all of you to the 83rd annual meeting of the Runestone Electric Association. A special welcome to our guest speaker, Rick Lancaster, and our scholarship recipients and their parents. I will now call the meeting to order. Would you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? And the flag is right over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you'd remain standing for a minute, we'll have a moment of silence for invocation. Thank you. You may be seated. We'll now declare that we have a quorum present. The notice of the meeting and proof of the mailing will be made part of the record of the meeting. I will now appoint Paul Johnson as parliamentarian of this meeting. Paul is with the tellers at this point counting the ballots, but he will be here shortly. Those of you who are waiting to cast your ballot, the ballot box is in the back, and balloting will close in just a few minutes. A motion is needed to limit debate to no more than 5 minutes total per person, and no more than twice per person on the same subject, with the stipulation that the parliamentarian has the right to override if he sees fit. Do I have such a motion, please? Okay, do I have a second? Thank you. So you don't need names on those, do you? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. I will now ask for a motion to approve the agenda as printed on the inside of the front cover of the annual report. Do I hear such a motion? Thank you, George. Second? Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. We have some special guests in our audience tonight that I'd like to introduce. We have Marie Catterhagen from Todd-Wadena. She's a director there. And Dan Carlisle, the CEO of the Todd-Wadena Co-op. I saw you at one point, but they're there. Thank you. Mike Johnson is a former director from, I think, District 7, right, Mike? Okay. And Dwayne Roselle, former director from District 1. And I was told that Rick Banke is here in the audience, our former CEO. I didn't see you, Rick, but okay, up there, thank you. We have Darius and Carol Complin, who are Chris Dolan's parents. And Chris's 4 kids are all children, young adults are all here. We'd like to welcome all of you. I would like to introduce the directors from District 1, and they're all sitting over on this side. We have Andy Anderson. From District 3, Audrey Jelly. District 4, Ronnie Holm. District 5, Mike Logan. District 6, Cliff Patrick. And our director from District 7, Steve Peterson, is not able to attend here. He's in the hospital. I'm Barbara Johnson, and I represent District 2. We also have at the table here on my right, our CEO, Kristen Dolan.
Welcome, everybody.
Our guest speaker, Rick Lancaster. Manager of Member Services, Sue Lundeen. And the empty chair there is for our attorney. As you probably know, REA is divided into 7 districts, each one representing approximately 1/7 of the members. As a matter of fact, this last year we had to readjust our districts as the numbers were getting too far out of balance, so some of you may find that you're now in a different district than you were in the past. Each year we elect directors for 3-year term on a rotating basis. This year, districts 1 and 4 are up for elections. The candidates for directors are, and please stand when I call your name. For District 1, Gary Anderson, the incumbent. And from District 4, to fill the seat of retiring director Ron Holm, we have Rod Borden. Are they in here? There you are, Rod, sorry. It's hard to see into the light. Terry Detloff. Okay, thank you. David Lemon. and David Staples. I would like to thank all of you for your willingness to serve on the board, and good luck to all of you. Our tellers tonight are from District 1, Nancy Hagen Miller, District 2, Cecilia Davis, District 3, Debbie Johnson, District 4, Rod Stone, District 5, Rich Moen, District 6, Jim Jensen, and District 7, Debbie Anderson. They are busy tonight as we have 4 candidates for the one spot, and then with the bylaws vote, there's apparently a huge number of ballots to be counting, so it may take them a little bit. Mail ballots were presented to the tellers by a representative from Clifton Larson Allen LLC, and the tellers are counting the ballots at this time. Later this evening, we will have a question and answer period on the agenda. At registration, you were handed a What's on Your Mind card. If you would like to ask a question, please fill out the card. Following my president's report, please hand the completed cards toward the center aisle. At the beginning of the CEO report, REA employees will gather the questions from the center aisles. We will answer as many questions as time allows, and will follow up with individual members for any questions we run out of time for. If you need a card and don't have one, just raise your hand and I'm sure one of the employees will be able to get it for you. The balloting is now closed. Those of you who may have attended our annual meeting before recall that within the annual report we include a copy of the minutes of the previous meeting. By doing this, it is possible to dispense with the reading of the minutes since each of you has had an opportunity to examine the minutes at home. If you agree with this practice, I will accept a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes of the 82nd annual meeting. Don't even have to ask for it, I've got an arm waving there, thanks. Do I have a second? Okay, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Opposed? Motion carries. Since the reading of the minutes of the last annual meeting has been waived, are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Anybody? Okay, if not, I will accept a motion that the minutes of this meeting should show that the minutes of the last annual meeting were approved as printed and mailed to all of the members of the association. Could I get such a motion? Okay, a second? Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Thank you, the motion carries. It is now my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Rick Lancaster. Rick is Great River Energy's Vice President and Chief Generation Officer. His responsibilities include the operation and maintenance of a 2,700 megawatt fleet of electric generating plants fueled by coal, natural gas, fuel oil, and solar energy. GRE has 468 megawatts of wind power under contract. Rick serves on the board of the National Alliance on Mental Illness, Minnesota, and the Lewis and Clark Fort Mandan Foundation. Rick has an associate in applied science degree in power plant technology from Bismarck State College and a Master of Public Policy degree from the University of Michigan. Rick has announced that he will retire from Great River Energy on June 7, 2019. Rick?
Thank you, Madam President. And thank you for inviting me to speak today, just a few weeks before my retirement. It's really a pleasure to be here. Good evening. Great River Energy is a member-owned cooperative, and Runestone Electric Association is one of its members. We have 28 member cooperatives. They have 700,000 members. GRE has $3.9 billion in total assets and $1 billion of revenue last year. We have competitive rates, and our forecast of our rates is that they will be stable in the coming years, and I've got a slide on that later in the presentation. We have 4,820 miles of transmission lines, and as President Johnson said, over 3,000 megawatts of generation, including 10 power plants and 700 megawatts of renewables. So actually that number is a bit larger than what Barb said because it includes some renewables that are owned by others but that we buy all the output of. Next slide. 2018 was a strong financial year for us. We had a margin of $70 million. What we did with it is there was a $10 million cash refund to members, to our 28 members. We reserved $10 million to offset future rate increases, and then we used $26 million to write off financial obligations. We achieved our equity goal, which was to get up to 20% equity by 2020. We achieved that goal 2 years early. Next slide. Now that we have reached our equity goal, we're now returning cash back to our member-owner cooperatives. And on March 28th of this year, we issued our first patronage capital return of $15 million to our 28 members. This is the 10-year rate forecast that I mentioned earlier. Great River Energy's wholesale electric rates are well below the weighted regional average. The compound annual growth rate of our rates for the next 10 years is projected to be 0.43%, or less than 0.5%, well below the rate of inflation. Our carbon dioxide emissions have declined by 37.9% since 2005. We've shut down a coal-fired power plant and ended 2 other coal-related obligations in order to achieve this result. During the 2019 polar vortex on January 30 to 31, our energy supply was 72% from coal, 26% from natural gas or fuel oil, and only 2% from renewables during those 2 days. And for the year as a whole, we're about 50% coal and about 25% renewables. So what happened on those 2 days? Well, in the Twin Cities, where there's a heat island, it was 28 below zero Fahrenheit. Our power plants are not in the Twin Cities. They're in rural Minnesota, where it's colder than that, where it's in the 30s below zero, or it was on those days. And at 22 degrees below zero Fahrenheit, wind turbines shut down to protect equipment. So the wind that we were counting on was not available. Starting the natural gas and fuel oil plants, that was challenging too. It was about like starting your pickup truck if you've left it sitting outside all week at temperatures in the 20s and 30s below, and you come back after a week and you try to start it. Those plants were a little cranky, but fortunately we have good staff of mechanics, and they got them all started, and we used them all. So we learned some lessons during the polar vortex. One was to start our gas and oil plants when it's relatively warm, when it's, say, only 10 below zero. Get them online, get them warmed up, and don't count on wind power if it's colder than 22 below zero. I don't have anything against wind power. It's a very low-cost part of our portfolio, but this is a lesson that we learned. Another lesson we learned is that our coal plants performed just fine. They were hot and online and ran through the polar vortex without any problems. Our employees met the challenge. As I mentioned, we have great mechanics who overcame the difficulties that come along with cold weather and trying to start something that hasn't been running recently. We operated the natural gas and oil plants on short notice in the real-time market. And the real-time market is operated by an entity called the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator. They operate the wholesale power market in this entire region. They're based in Carmel, Indiana, just to give you an idea how big the region is. And we gave them some feedback that some more advance notice would have been a good thing. It would have allowed us to procure natural gas and fuel oil in a more cost-effective manner. So we hope that some changes will be made before next winter. We've established a goal to be 50% renewable by 2030. As I mentioned, we're 25% renewable now, and we did that several years ahead of when it's required. We have a power plant portfolio that consists of renewable energy, efficient and cost-effective lignite power, and well-positioned peaking resources, those natural gas and fuel oil plants that I mentioned earlier. Those plants are not very expensive to build relative to other plants, but they can provide energy very, very quickly on either cold winter days or hot summer days when it's needed the most. We are adding to our portfolio renewable additions with a focus on competitiveness, such as low-cost wind power. Why did we establish a 50 by 30 goal, 50% renewable by 2030? We are meeting the expectations of a changing market. We're finding that more and more end-use consumers, such as yourselves, but also including commercial and industrial end-use consumers, they expect to see more renewables in the portfolio. They're concerned about CO2 emissions, and we're responding to that in a cost-effective way. We also find that wind power, new wind power resources, are the least cost resource for our portfolio, which is an amazing change in my career. I've worked for the co-op for 25 years, and they used to be the most costly resource. Now they're the least cost. It's really been amazing. And we also can negotiate some good deals on hydropower from Manitoba. And don't tell the Manitobans I said that. They can be tough negotiators, but we find that's another cost-effective source of renewable energy for that. For us, I meant to say. So how will we meet 50 by 30? As I said, we're taking a cost-effective approach. We're going to repower our 100 megawatt Trimont project, which is in southern Minnesota, not far from Jackson. We're buying into a new, or we'll be purchasing power from a new 300 megawatt project in Emmons and Logan counties in North Dakota in 2020. Up to 200 megawatts of Minnesota-compliant hydropower from Manitoba. And what Minnesota-compliant means is it's small hydropower. It doesn't come from great big dams, but from smaller dams, say 60 megawatts or smaller. And then we'll add up to 500 megawatts of new wind power to meet member needs in the decade beginning after 2020. So here's a map of where the wind power resources are located. And where you want to put wind turbines is where it's windy. You get much better bang for your buck. And North Dakota has been called the Saudi Arabia of wind. So our big 300 megawatt project, that Emmons-Logan project, that's the big green dot in southern North Dakota there. And then you can see our other projects, mainly in southern Minnesota. There's one right across the border in northern Iowa. We're working on electrifying the economy, finding new uses of electricity such as storage water heaters. We have a Revolt electric vehicles program, and also indoor agriculture. Indoor agriculture it's very intensive. It uses less land than outdoor agriculture. But it also uses a lot of electricity. And we see that as a coming thing. Pictured here is a Chevy Bolt EV. It's an all-electric car, and my wife and I bought one a year and a half ago. Actually, we're leasing it, but you feel like you're buying it when you're leasing it. And it's really been great. She would not let me drive it here tonight. I'm driving my gas-guzzling SUV, but it's really been a fantastic vehicle. 0 to 60 in about 8 seconds. The cost of fueling it with electricity is less than the cost of gasoline per gallon, significantly less. We have it on an off-peak program, and it never needs an oil change. We're also promoting economic development by attracting data centers to our area and by buying local whenever we can. Thank you. Now a few words about the 2019 Minnesota Legislature. There's a couple of bills of interest to electric co-ops, which I've listed here. In the Minnesota Senate, there's Senate File 1692. It's got Conservation Improvement Program modifications in it that have been proposed by electric cooperatives, by the Minnesota Rural Electric Association, and the electric cooperatives are all supporting it. What it would allow is electrification for total energy efficiency. It's a little bit broader view, and one that we think would be favorable for our members. And it emphasizes efficiency and eliminates the spending requirement. The thing is to be efficient, and it's not really about how much it costs you to be efficient, but about actually being efficient. In the House, there's a much different bill, and as you know, the House and the Senate are controlled by different political parties. In the House, the companion bill is House File 1833, and of concern in there is a requirement to be 100% carbon-free by 2050. And I just want to say 100% is a very big number. I mean, it's a very big number. And let's say it's 30 below and the wind turbines aren't spinning. Does that mean in 2050 we don't serve our members because it's so cold out? I don't think so. So there needs to be an off-ramp in there for reliability, for cost, and we need to be able to use those fast-starting, reliable gas-fired and oil-fired peaking plants, especially in system emergencies when we just don't have enough power for our members, either because it's too hot or too cold. So we think that requirement, and all the co-ops are expressing this to their legislators, that requirement is just too strict. There's something in there that's worth talking about, but 100% is just too strict. And then in that same House bill, the Conservation Improvement Program does not include the language that co-ops have asked for, and it's a more rigid, less flexible Conservation Improvement Program and is opposed by electric cooperatives. Because we are a cooperative of cooperatives, we have collective strength, and that comes from you and from all the other members of our 28-member cooperatives. We have a diversified, innovative membership. We have excellent power supply assets, a reliable transmission system, and good access to capital and energy markets. And finally, Madam President, I have here a check from Great River Energy for $1,000 for Operation Roundup, and I'd like to present that to you at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Great River Energy for the check. I'm sure the Operation Roundup Board will find a very good use for the money. I will now call on our CEO, Kristen Dolan, to give the Treasurer's report.
Thank you, Barb. It's tight quarters up here. All right. I'm going to be, Sue, I'll look over at you to advance the slides when ready. The Treasurer's report can be found in the center of your annual report if you'd like to follow along. And the 2018 financials have been audited, and a clean opinion was given by our audit firm. REA has experienced an increase in the number of new members over the last few years, and it's been a nice steady increase, as you can see in the graph up on the screen. This helps with our member density. On the right of the slide, you can see that REA serves 4.8 members per mile of line, while our counterpart utilities, municipalities, and investor-owned utilities serve about 35 and 34 members per mile of line. And what that means is only 4.8 members share in the cost of that mile of line for rural electric cooperatives. And that piece of information right there tells you the great diversity in density between a population center and a rural electric co-op. But as the co-op grows, it's nice to see that growth happen to share the costs amongst more members. On the next slide, it shows REA's growth in energy sales over the last 10 years. And you'll notice the upticks in 13 and 14 and this last year, 2018, very cold winters in those years. And it's interesting that in 2018, our sales did exceed the polar vortex winter of 2013 and 14, and that one was extremely cold as well. And we heard of the challenges Rick described with our recent cold winter here in January of 2019. The next slide shows our average cost per kilowatt hour for the co-op, and you can see that there is a reduction that happened in 2018. You saw in Rick's report the amount of money given back to the 28 member owners, and this is reflected in that slide. When our power supplier refunds money to us, we in turn send that back to you, our members. The next slide is a pictorial graph of our operating statement. You can see the dollar amounts in your on page 4 of your annual report on the right-hand side. But this graph shows where your dollar goes at the cooperative. On the far right, the largest slice of the pie, the yellow part, is our cost of power. And we have two main power suppliers, Great River Energy and Western Area Power Administration. Those two power supply contracts make up the 55.7% power cost that REA has here. The next largest pieces of our pie are reflected where I have, if you can see it, those are bucket trucks that I've put on the pie. The orange at the bottom is our operations and maintenance expense. This is the investment we make back into the system to keep your grid reliable. I'd like to group together the purple, depreciation expense, the green, which is our margins, and the blue, which is interest expense. This is the cost of financing at your cooperative, the cost to pay for the distribution plant that's in place to deliver reliable electricity to your homes and businesses. And then the pieces of the pie that have the bucket trucks on them and the power supply side of the pie, the large part, those are fixed costs for the co-op. It's very, very difficult for us to change these amounts drastically in an annual event, because these are ongoing long-term numbers, as you can imagine. We have power supply contracts in place that are long-term, and then the financing side usually involves a 30-year loan. And depreciation, we usually write our assets off over the life of those assets, which is generally 30 to 35 years. The next slide shows our margins from year to year that we have at REA. And you can see the slide looks a little volatile. It depends on the weather of the year and just what's going on with costs in that year as well. But you'll notice just a small downtick in our margins in 2018. Nothing to be concerned with, but it does tell the story for the next slide, which is our times interest earned ratio. This is how many times we can pay back our interest expense with our margins, and this is a financial ratio that is we are required to meet in our loan covenants that we have. And the reason for the slight downtick is related to the slight reduction in margins that you saw in 2018. We are still very, very healthy at a 2.01 tier. The next slide is also another financial ratio showing the financial health of your cooperative, and this is our equity percentage. In 2018, we have achieved a ratio of 39.1%. And this is the percent of ownership that you have in your cooperative, REA, reflected from a monetary standpoint. And this is a healthy ratio for us to achieve the 39.1. It allows us financial flexibility to do the projects we need to do to serve you with reliable power. On the screen next, here we have our balance sheet. And on the left-hand side up on the screen is the what we own sign at the side. At the very top, it shows our utility plant, and that's the largest number, of course. This includes all of our poles, wires, substation, transformers, all of that equipment you see out in the countryside, delivering it in place to deliver power to your homes and businesses. Moving down a bit is patronage capital. Included in with associated organizations, the largest amount in this does come from Great River Energy. They, as you heard Rick report, we are an owner of Great River Energy, which is a cooperative just like REA. At the end of the year, the margins that they have, they allocate to us. And you see that on the left-hand side of the screen up here. If you look across to the right-hand side of the screen and up a row, you will see a line item called Capital Credits Assigned to Membership, GRE, for $9.4 million. When we receive those margins from Great River Energy, we in turn assign them directly back to you. So you can see that assignment happening on the liability side or the what we owe side. I just wanted to correlate those two items to you as long as I was talking about the asset side. There are other associated organizations that we do business with that are cooperatives like REA that are also in that 11 point, almost 600,000 number on the what we own side. Current and accrued assets include cash, accounts receivable from members, and inventories. Our total assets and debits at the end of 2018 are $91,253,591. Moving back over to that right-hand side, the what we owe side, at the top you can see the breakout of the various long-term debt obligations that we have at REA. The equities and margin in the middle there, that's that 39.1% financial ownership that you have in REA. And at the bottom is our current and accrued liabilities, and this is comprised of accounts payable and our current maturities of our long-term debt. And our liabilities total what our assets do, which is $91,253,591. Your cooperative had another strong financial year, and we are in great financial health to continue to serve you with reliable and affordable electricity. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I need to ask for a motion to approve the treasurer's report. Did I hear such a motion?
No move.
Okay, a second? Thank you. You bail me out every time. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, opposed? The motion is carried. Over the past several years, the report from the board president has included many major capital budget projects, including the building of 2 new substations, one large and one smaller one, the selling of the downtown office building, which was in need of major repair, and building a new headquarters office connected to our warehouse, the installation of 2 phases of solar panels, the replacing of failing underground cable, and the installation of new two-way meters at all accounts. While the underground cable project is ongoing and will continue for several years, we are extremely proud to have the rest of those important strategic projects completed. This year I have no new major projects to tell you about. However, today we are seeing the benefits of all the hard work on those projects I mentioned. Here are just a few of the highlights of those benefits and a look at what else we have been working on. Of course, the substations were for reliability. We were nearing capacity in places on the system and needed the substations to keep the lights on, a big priority for us and no doubt for you too. Because of the new building, our staff is all in one location, making for more effective teamwork. In the past, employees were going back and forth between the downtown and the warehouse locations on a regular basis. We have added more accounts, 208 new accounts in 2018, and yet we are not adding employees. We are working more efficiently. With the data from the new metering systems, our energy management technicians were able to tag over 300 accounts to visit where the meters showed that the off-peak signals were not being received. Repairing this problem led to significant savings for the co-op. In addition, the employees have been busy keeping the lights on, but also doing many other projects. They visited all 252 irrigation sites as a part of a demand response unit project. They installed a level 2 charger for electric vehicles at the office building. So Rick, your wife could have let you drive the electric vehicle after all. They presented a renewable energy options class, which was designed to present a balanced approach to renewable options for our members. We want to help you be informed so you can make the best decision for your particular circumstances. They began offering standby generation and had employees become trained in the maintenance, standby generators, and had employees become trained in the maintenance of them. Other events with the co-op were offering the Coal Creek Tour to Great River Energy Operations in North Dakota, participating in the STEAM event at the school system. STEAM is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Participating in the Energy Day Camp for 5th graders, holding a safety seminar along with ALP for EMTs, first responders, excavators, tow truck drivers, reporters, and others who would be called to an accident scene involving electric systems. Knowing what to do in these circumstances can literally be a matter of life and death. And of course, I can't forget our annual pancake feed, which was attended by over 1,500 in 2018. It's coming up again this summer on Saturday, August 17th. As we tell you every year, safety is our most important priority. At this time, our employees have driven 762,472 miles without an accident. That goes back to January of 2017. In addition, they have worked almost 224,000 hours without a lost time accident. This goes back to January of 2016. We hope that next year your board chair will be able to add to those numbers. We stress safety at all times. I will shift a little now from the employees to the board of directors. As your elected board of directors, we have an oversight responsibility to you, our members. Perhaps the Ashby elevator situation brings us more to mind. I can assure you that each month we review the financial statements, the monthly and year-to-date operating report, the balance sheet, our operating ratios, and all the disbursements for the month. We also hire an outside accounting firm to do a financial audit each year. We take seriously our responsibility to be accountable to all of you. In addition, over the last year, the board has reviewed the cost of service study, reviewed, modified, and improved a rate study. We also approved the long-range load forecast. We approved a new grant through our Rural Economic Development Loan Program. We worked to revise the Articles of Incorporation and bylaws to bring them up to date and in compliance with current laws. Those proposed revised articles and bylaws were sent to you in your annual meeting packet of information for you to vote on. And I think that's why the tellers are so busy tonight. This year we approved refunding $600,000 in capital credits. You should have received your checks the beginning of this month. In addition, we refunded the Great River Energy capital credits that were sent to us. This fall, we will have a strategic planning session to set our goals for the next 3 to 4 years. We get weekly legislative updates when the legislature is in session and spend a day on Capitol Hill meeting with our legislators to help them understand issues that affect the electric industry that they might be working on. With the industry changing so rapidly, we continue to attend classes and seminars on topics of importance to the cooperative. If at any time you have any questions for any of us, our contact phone numbers are on the REA website, and that's www.runestoneelectric.com. If we can't answer your question, we will do our best to get the information for you or put you in contact with the person who will know. We are here to serve you. Mark Hintermeyer was president of the advisory council this past year. and he is unable to be here tonight, so I have his report. Over the past year, the REA staff has provided the Advisory Council with an electrical safety demonstration, an update on the completion of the new metering system, the benefits of Smart Hub, the new standby generator program, and beneficial electrification. We also had several guest speakers who shared information on local democracy legislation and utility-scale solar energy projects. New this year was the addition of a member spotlight at the council meetings. We learned about Bread and Butter Dairy near Kensington, Country Blossom Farm near Alexandria, and Selective TV. The Member Advisory Council meets quarterly. If you're interested in serving on the Advisory Council, simply contact the REA office and they will fill you in on details. I will now call on Chris Dolan, our CEO, to give her CEO report.
Thank you, Barb. Great report, Barb. I just want to take a moment and thank Rick Lancaster for being our guest speaker here tonight. I'm just pleased it worked out for him. This is my 4th annual meeting as your CEO. In my very first year, Rick was our guest speaker, so I was just happy to have him back right before he retires here. My first year, Rick was very kind and reached out and helped me through the navigating Great River Energy that first year, and I can't thank him enough. So I'm sad to see him go, but well-deserved retirement, Rick, so thank you for 25 years of service. So, yeah. I want to thank my family for coming tonight. I have my parents in the crowd here too. They come all the way up from Cottonwood, Minnesota, and have made it every year for 4 years. They're just right down here. And all of my children are here too, which is a hard thing to do as kids get older. But Derek, Brandon, Jason, and Carly are here with us tonight too. So thanks guys for making it. I appreciate it. All right, I'll dive into my report now. This community, you, our members, formed REA. REA is this community. What do I mean by REA is this community, and why is it important? Earlier, Barb introduced the board of directors to you. I want you to know who they are, and quite simply, they are you. They are elected by you, and they represent you. They are the governance of this cooperative, as Barb just reviewed with you. In 1935, it was for some of you, your grandparents, parents, your relatives that came together with their neighbors. They agreed that electricity was needed in their homes and on their farms. All of them recognized no one else was going to do it, so it was up to them. They created this organization, REA, from the ground up. They got organized. They put the people in place. They brought electric service to this community of members today. REA literally is this community, a community you and those before you built. Why is it important to understand this? It is summed up in one word: trust. There is no better partner than the one you trust. It is no different today than it was 83 years ago, other than we are in a much better place today. You have SAFE. We continually educate safety around electricity, as shown in this recent Echo Press news article, and Barb talked about this event in her report just a few minutes ago. And you have reliable. The light blue line on this graph shows how we performed in 2018 compared to our 5-year average on the average outage duration. This improved performance is a direct result of the projects Barb mentioned in her report to you. And you have affordable electricity available to you today. This graph includes the projected average rate for 2019 and includes the May 1, 2019 rate change that I will review with you later. You will notice rates have been very stable over the last 10 years. Safe, reliable, affordable. This is a great platform to continue to operate from and provide the ongoing energy needs for our community. Today, our electric industry is undergoing change. We heard about some of that change from Rick in his report. Just as the digital age came to the communications industry, the same is true for us today. Technology is enabling this transformation. Whether it is solar generation, battery storage, electric vehicles, software, or simply data and information, more flexibility is available to utilities and consumers today. Who can help you navigate this change? Your company can. This organization that you own, that the original member owners created, REA. Together we can solve the needs of tomorrow and do it much more effectively together than independent of each other or with other providers who aren't this community. REA is very visionary. We must and do look out to the future in our planning initiatives, as Barb mentioned. Items we are working on today are enabled by the projects Barb reviewed in her address with you. For example, the installation of automated metering infrastructure known as AMI provides us with system data, which in turn enables us to serve you in an informed and efficient manner. Another great example is the replacement of aging underground cable. This graph shows the reduction in outages as a result of this ongoing project. As we look to the future, we will continue to evaluate new technologies and work towards integration and adoption when the economics are there. All along the way, we will be there to advise you for your area, any areas of interest you have in your electric needs. Later this spring and early this summer, we will email and mail a member survey to you. We ask a series of questions, all in an effort to understand what your electric needs and interests are. This information is then used to develop the strategic plan that Barb mentioned we will be conducting this fall. I encourage you to return the survey when you receive it. An excellent example of working together to meet the community needs is REA's Operation Roundup program. This was established by the members of REA in 2003. This fall, donations will exceed $1 million. To reach this milestone after 18 years of collecting spare change is amazing. Thank you. Thank you to all the members that participate in Operation Roundup. Thank you for participating in the democracy of your cooperative. Thank you for voting for directors and also for the bylaw recommended change this year. No matter how the votes may turn out, what is important is that you let your voice be heard in your cooperative. The changes recommended for the Articles of Incorporation and bylaws will enable us to operate more efficiently for you. The changes address several areas, including changes that have occurred in the law, modernizing the language, developments in technology, providing additional legal protection, strengthen director qualifications, and to provide efficiency and cost savings that I mentioned earlier in the operation and administration of the cooperative. I also wanted to review the cost of service changes that will go into effect May 1, which you will receive on your bills in early June. The increase is necessary in order to cover the increased cost of doing business, to ensure the financial stability of the cooperative, and maintain the quality, reliability, and integrity of services we provide. If you remember that graph in the Treasurer's report with the bucket trucks on various slices of the pie, those are the items that are causing the rate change that we need. We work hard to absorb those costs as much as we can. Barb mentioned in her report that we've added more members, but we're not adding more employees, and it's through technology and through data that we're able to work efficiently and smart for you. But we work hard to keep those costs down, but we experience inflationary increases as well. So those, if you remember those bucket trucks, those are that's the reason for the rate increase in 2019 here. The rates I'm showing on the next three screens are also available to you in our April newsline, our monthly newsletter, and on our website. Additional revenue is needed, as I mentioned, to invest in the distribution system. This includes, to further describe it, the continued replacement of aged and faulty underground wire and the replacement of old power poles. And when possible, overhead power lines will be replaced with underground wire, which costs a little more to install, but has less exposure to weather and ongoing maintenance. Additional revenue is also needed to accelerate our right-of-way clearing program and to invest in smart grid technologies. We also have available 2 new rates for our members. One is an electric vehicle rate, so if you have an electric vehicle, make sure to call our cooperative to find out about that rate. We also have a new shop rate available for space heating needs for large shops. So if you have a need for either one of those, make sure to call REA. Electricity is a valuable service. It enables an easier way of life for us all. It powers our everyday for an average of just under $4 a day. It provides the convenience afforded to us all. That's less than a caramel latte, a Big Mac, or a peanut butter parfait. Whether you are enjoying supper with your family, working on your hobby, or charging all of your electronics, we are there for you. We are not only there for you, but also for cooperatives just like REA. Just 12 short days ago, cooperatives to our south experienced an ugly April ice storm event. At the height, more than 50,000 people were without power, and some for up to a week. The temperatures were just right, and ice built up on the lines the evening of Wednesday, April 10th. This adds tremendous weight, straining wires, causing them to sag, and poles to bend. When you add wind and the weight of the ice, the poles begin to snap, falling over and breaking off. In following our cooperative principles, one being cooperation among cooperatives, REA sent 2 crews to help out. Pictured here are the 4 REA line workers that went to help. From left to right is Travis Freedy, Josh McGrain, Matt Beatty, and Kyle Blade. This picture was taken when they returned after helping down south for 1 week. And notice they are still all smiles. We also sent equipment and brought poles along to help. Early estimates total close to 2,700 distribution poles were brought down by the ice and wind along southern Minnesota from Sioux Falls to Wisconsin. Our power suppliers also encountered quite a bit of damage too. GRE has seen the most damage in all of its history in that storm just 12 days ago. Upon arriving into the area, downed poles greeted our crews. And here is a look at the conditions they worked in. The guys told us when we sent the right equipment down there. They could set up in the middle of the road to reach the poles and wires where they needed to. This was important as the edge of gravel roads are very soft at this time of the year. The guys still had to climb poles when necessary to connect wire. Our Bobcat, with a pole setting attachment, was a very important piece of equipment down there. They could easily bring the pole to the installation point and set the pole. They worked long days from early morning to sundown each day. But they were all smiles as they love helping members who are without power, working safely and as quickly as possible to restore power. Thank you to our line worker, Josh McGrain, for the amazing pictures I just shared with you. Just like we were there for our cooperative neighbors, we are there for you. REA has available a standby generator solution for your electric needs, as Barb mentioned in her report. This is a turnkey installation solution that intelligently powers your home, automatically starting for you when the power goes out. We have many more programs and services available to you, from energy management to Smart Hub. Smart Hub provides you with online bill view and pay, and also access to your energy consumption. Please visit our website to sign up for the Smart Hub application. I encourage you to check out additional programs such as our worry-free water heater program. Rick talked about that in the electrification portion of his speech. This program is worry-free because it comes with a lifetime warranty against leaks at a very affordable rate. We have several rebates available for various programs, as you see in this slide. I saw many of you visiting with our energy management booth or a table this evening, and make sure to reach out to our office for any programs you are interested in if you didn't get a chance to stop by. All of these programs are ways for you, our members, to save money on your electric bill. I've been touching on what are called the 7 cooperative principles, and I wanted to visit members' economic participation briefly. REA is a nonprofit entity, and we accomplish this through the capital credit process. In 2018, we retired $800,000 back to you. This includes a refund of REA past margins and a portion from GRE past margins that Rick mentioned earlier when he talked about GRE achieving 20% equity. Also, Rick touched on GRE's goal of supplying its member-owner cooperatives with energy that is 50% from renewable sources by 2030. REA's energy portfolio is slightly different in that we have that additional power supplier, Western Area Power Administration, also known as WAPA. The generation from WAPA is a hydroelectric carbon-free resource. Today, REA's energy portfolio is already 48% carbon-free. With GRE's responsible path forward to 50% renewable by 2030, the electricity we provide will continue to become more carbon-free with each passing year. This graph here reflects GRE's 25% renewable energy goal that they met in 2017. It is a challenging environment for our electric industry legislatively. Rick touched on that a little bit. There are many concerning provisions proposed by the House of Representatives and the Minnesota governor. Concerning provisions include a proposed mandate for electric utilities to provide aggregated customer energy usage data to the public upon request. I showed you our density earlier, with only 4.8 members per mile and even less in portions of our territory. Aggregated data isn't enough of a cushion to protect your privacy, as dissection of the data could determine individual members' use. There are proposed reporting requirements that mandate utilities file an annual diversity report on goals and efforts to increase diversity in our employment and the contractors we hire. At REA, you do have diversity today, and we certainly can do more, but it starts at the education level in order to provide diversity at the applicant stage of the hiring process. Added reporting requirements associated with this adds to the administrative costs of your cooperative. 100% carbon-free by 2050 and a requirement that generation come from clean energy first is concerning. Today, the technology isn't available to achieve this goal without impacting reliability, and we are very concerned with reliability, as you heard in Rick's report of our experience during the recent polar vortex, during those extreme weather events. And we are concerned with increased costs to achieve those goals, but mainly our primary concern is reliability. We as an electric industry are asking for positive reform to the Conservation Improvement Program. Rick touched, the Senate bill, as Rick mentioned earlier, does reflect the changes that we're asking for improvement to that program. The House version does not. But as our industry becomes more carbon-free, as we have shown you this evening, let's work towards electrifying the economy. The current Conservation Improvement Program penalizes REA in achieving this. It is more important than ever to let your voice be heard in St. Paul. We are moving responsibly forward with the change needed to take care of the environment. We balance this with providing you with reliable and affordable electricity. We have accomplished great progress already, as Rick and I have covered. And we have set new goals to deliver even further carbon-free electricity to you. I encourage you, keep control of your organization, your reliability, your affordability, keep your autonomy as a member-owned organization with you. This is an amazing community, and REA is an amazing organization. We have accomplished so much together through the power of community. Today, we provide safe, reliable, and affordable electricity to you in a responsible manner. No one can do it better than us because we know our community. We know us. You and REA are this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Tonight is the last official REA meeting for Ron Holm. He has decided to retire after 33 years of service as a director on the REA board. He has had an incredible tenure, seen many changes over the years. Here's a look at the timeline of Ron's election and the significant things that happened at REA during his time as a director. In 1986, Ron was elected as a District 4 director. In 1987, Rick Banke was hired as CEO. 1991 to 2011, Ron served as board treasurer. In 1996 to 2000, REA ALP had the internet services. 1996, we had our first pancake feed. 1997, Star Energy Services was created. In 1998, the turtle meters were installed. 1997 to 2002, REA had electrical contracting. In 1999, Cooperative Power Association merged with United Power Association to create Great River Energy. In 1999, Ellingson Plumbing, Heating, and HVAC was purchased, and it was sold later in 2006. 2011, Ron served as a Great River Energy board member. 2013, our new headquarters building was finished. 2013 to 2016, Ronnie served as board treasurer. 2015, we completed Community Solar Phase 1. 2015, REA began the AMI meter project. 2015, CEO Chris Dolan was hired. 2017, REA completed the AMI meter project. 2017 was the completion of Solar Energy Phase 2. From 2000 to the current day, Ronnie has served as board treasurer. And tonight, 2019, Ron retires as REA's board of directors. And Ron tells us in that 33 years, he has missed just one meeting. He has been a dedicated... dedicated director and served the board and you, his constituents, well. Here tonight with Ronnie is his wife, Dorothy. Dorothy, can you stand up? I believe he also has children, grandchildren, and his first great-grandchild, a 6-week-old little girl. Here, if you people could stand up too, please. It's my pleasure to present this to you from REA. Perhaps you can open it and show everybody what's in there. Here's a book that the staff did Ronnie on his tenure. There's a beautiful
suggested how much material I had with, and I said, well, I got quite a bit of material with after 30-some years. I could stand here for a while, but I just felt I didn't want to bore you too much. But it's been a wonderful, I've really enjoyed it. I mean, it's time-consuming, and people just think it's one day, once a month. Well, it doesn't quite work out that way. Now, after we got iPads and different things, we get material every day to look at and look over, you know. So that's what it is. And you members probably don't realize how fortunate we are to have such a staff, and as Chris Dolan as our leader of this organization. The employees, when there's a storm comes up or any emergency comes up, you don't only see the people out in the field, you'll see a whole bunch of them in the office on phones, answering service. And I'd like to, I don't know where Chris went. Oh, here she is, right here. Yeah, I'd like to have Chris stand, and if there's any employees in the crowd, would they please stand, and so the membership can, come on out here, employees. Let's have the membership see you folks, so they have an idea who they want to see. These are the ones that you get in contact with. If you have some questions, try and stump them. That's pretty impossible, even for a Swede, you know. So, and I'd like to thank my wife and my family for their support over these years, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Ronnie. What a wonderful, wonderful time it's been sharing the board with him. Our next step now is to present the scholarships. Those of you who are receiving scholarships, if you can start going up the aisle and around and line up over against that wall over there, that'll help us speed up the process a little bit. On behalf of the REA Board of Directors, I am pleased to present the winners of the 2019 REA Scholarship Program. The scholarships are funded through unclaimed capital credits. Each of the students will be receiving a $1,000 scholarship. This year we had 85 applicants. The 9 winners were randomly drawn, 1 from each of the 7 districts, and then 2 more from the entire pool of applicants. Students, when your name is called, please come forward to receive your award from your district director, and then come and stand over here in front of the screen. District 1, Hunter Kroonquist. He's the son of Chad and Lois Kroonquist from Alexandria. And I've been asked to announce, if you have the What's on Your Mind cards, to pass them to the center aisles, so that if you have any questions, then the employees will collect those. Okay, our next recipient, Jordan Grunis, son of Joseph and Stephanie Grunis from Clear Lake, Minnesota. From District 3, Callie Johnson, daughter of Kristen Johnson from Barrett and Lance Johnson from Evansville. From District 4, Jeremy Knight, son of Kevin and Nancy Knight from Alexandria. Also from District 4, Jordan Marshall, whose parents are John and Connie Marshall from Alexandria. From District 5, sorry, Josh Wagner, son of David and Angela Wagner from Alexandria. From District 6, Spencer Meyer, son of Gary and Christy Meyer from Melrose. And from District 7, Riley Moore, son of Paul and Sherry Moore from Hoffman. And finally, from District 1, Derek Dolan, son of Carlisle, and Leslie Dolan from Mason City, Iowa, was unable to join us tonight because he had his wisdom teeth out on Friday. So congratulations to all of you students. Students, if you would, Hannah's over there against the wall. Wave your hand. If you would go out with her, she'd like to get a picture of you on the stairs in the Commons. Come through this way if you want, or whatever this is. Yeah, congratulations to all of you. All right, is there any unfinished business? Is there any new business? All right, we're up to the question and answer period. Did we get any cards? Yeah, we did. Excellent. What is the probably effect or efficiency of solar compared to wind?
Yeah, so when we talk about renewable resources, since there's no cost to the sunshine or the wind, we often talk about the capacity of them. And in southern Minnesota and North Dakota, as I mentioned, it's really good. In North Dakota, it can be as high as 45%. That means of all the available hours of the year, if it were at full output for 45% of the hours, that's a 45% capacity factor. Solar is not so good in Minnesota. We're pretty far north. And year-round, we get about 13%. We do have some solar resources as well as wind. And in December, the darkest month of the year, it's around 5%. So wind power is by far our most cost-effective renewable resource, and it's actually our most cost-effective resource because we actually have a pretty windy state here.
Thank you very much.
The next question, what happens to your capital credits when you die as a member?
Sorry, I was moving parts up here. When you unfortunately pass away as a member, we do have an early retirement of capital credits available for estate situations. So please contact the office. If it's a joint membership, if one of the joint members happens to pass away, there's still an early retirement available for those estates as well.
Okay. Next question is, are there any more solar panels for sale? And the answer to that is yes. Contact the office.
Yep, exactly.
Thank Grunstone employees for keeping our house warm. Thank you for the people that say that. We appreciate getting positive feedback too, not just complaints when the lights are off. Have you sold the old office building? Yes, that was sold several years ago, and we received payments over several years and have received the last lump sum payment a year ago.
Yep, final payment happened last year, and thank you to Rick Banke, your former CEO of Runestone, for taking care of that transaction. Not an easy feat, and he's over there, so thank you, Rick.
Yeah. The last question here, what would be cheaper to have, a wind turbine or a solar panel? Need just for house and shed.
I would encourage you to contact the office to talk to us about that. Rick touched on it earlier on capacity, the different capacity availability. In terms of maintenance, solar is much easier to maintain. We did an article in Newsline when you purchase, a few months ago, when you purchase a piece of equipment, you generally just look at that upfront cost. But what you need to look at is the life of that asset, the ongoing maintenance costs. So I would encourage you to reach out to us, and we'd be more than happy to sit down with you and discuss any distributed generation you want to do at your home, whether it's wind or solar. Okay.
Yeah, one last question for me. Is Rick Lancaster Bert's brother? And I am not related to Burt Lancaster, but I do like his movies a lot. Thank you.
What a way to finish your career, Rick.
Good wish, huh? Get some of his estate too.
All right, now, one last thing before we adjourn. I'm going to call on our attorney, Paul Johnson, who has finally made it back from working the teller's report on the elections.
And thanks to our tellers this year. We worked hard out in the teller room this year. Here are the results from the election. In District 1, Gary Anderson was running unopposed, and his total votes were 132, with one write-in there. Then we moved to District 4. We had a contested election, 4 candidates. Here are the numbers. Rod Borden with 58, Terry Detloff with 16, David Lemon with 40, and the winner was David Staples with 70. So congratulations to Gary Anderson and David Staples. In the vote on the restated Articles of Incorporation and bylaws, 589 in favor and 59 against. So that carried with the new Articles of Bylaws. Thank you.
Congratulations to Andy and to David Staples, and thank you to all of the people who ran tonight. We really appreciate your interest in REA. At this point, I have one last thing, and it's to call for a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor? Okay. There's ice cream treats, I believe.